for the fastest night in television on NBC.
Production 57332, Night Moves. This episode had the working title of Wheels of Fear. It was written by William Schmidt, directed by Christian I. Nyby II. This episode originally aired on NBC Friday night, March 11th, 1983 at 9 p.m. It was filmed from February 14th through the 22nd of 1983. This is the 19th episode to be produced and the 19th episode to air. The synopsis reads as follows. Rick and Terry Callie ask for the Foundation's help after a number of their semi-trucks are hijacked while en route to deliver goods to market. Let's dig in. We open with the hijackers driving this GMC Astro. This Astro is actually part of Universal Studios' transportation fleet that they used for behind-the-scenes productions, and they used it here. This is the same truck that we saw during the climax of Inside Out, and we also see it and a number of the other GMC Astros that they had throughout the course of the series. The studio acquired 6 of these GMC Astros in February of 1982. So shortly before the series premiered. And if you'll note, it has a paint scheme similar to the Comtron trucks. Once again, Michael is seen wearing his alternate jacket, the one that we first saw premiered in Hearts of Stone, and he wore it a few other times. This jacket would eventually fade away after the first season. We wouldn't see it again, but here he is wearing it briefly in Night Moves. Throughout the course of this first season, we see how the production is kind of starting to get its groove in terms of things such as how Michael and Devin communicate remotely. So, early on in the first season, we don't see any of this communication via Kit's monitors. And then, starting really around Hearts of Stone and really Give Me Liberty to Give Me Death, that's when we start to see Devin talking to Kit via the monitors. Now, prior to this, and I'm 99% sure this is the case, I'd have to go back and look, but I think this might be the first time we see Devin talking to Michael in Kit, and Devin is actually looking at the camera. Prior to this, especially I think back to Give Me Liberty to Give Me Death, whenever I told you, there was a scene where Devin was talking to Michael through Kit, but it was actually filmed. It wasn't meant to be a piece where Michael was on the road. Michael was actually at the Foundation, so Devin wasn't looking at the camera. But here we have Devin actually communicating on purpose to a camera that's transmitted into Kit. And I think this might be the first time we see this. And of course, this would become a staple throughout the rest of the series as to how Devin would communicate with Kit and Michael remotely. And also note that he has now this giant video phone on his desk, which is interesting because you'd think he'd be looking at this video phone, but instead he's looking at some, fourth wall, whatever camera. There's some other camera there that he's looking at where you think he'd be looking into this video phone, but whatever. Just kind of a blink and you'll miss it moment. This is Kurt Brusker getting out of his truck here, and everyone in the episode, all the truckers have their names, like Terry the Tiger, Big Brother, all that stuff. Here, we learn, we never hear it said in the episode, but Kurt Brusker's CB handle is Big Brew, and it says owner, operator, member AIT, the Alliance of Independent Truckers. So just a neat little piece there that's kind of like blink and you'll miss it. Also note back here, see this building over here? We'll go over this location. There's a couple things to note about this location here a little bit later on in this episode, but just wanted to show you that this building is still there today, right there. And this is located out on Castaic Canyon Road in California. We actually visited this area, and if we turn around here, we see Al's Auto Repair Shop. This is where Cali Family Trucking was located. It's all still there, and we were lucky enough to visit this out in 2018. Went in, talked to the owner. He remembered having Knight Rider film there along with the A-Team and a whole bunch of other shows. So we'll get back to this here shortly. Michael is preparing to back out after Kurt blocked him in. A couple things to note about this scene, and we mentioned this in Chariot of Gold. Here's the blood analyzer that we saw in Chariot of Gold. Here it is, still in Kit's dash. This will be the last time we see this in Kit. After this episode, it will disappear, never to be seen again. And we can also see some of the staging lights here for filming the scene in Kit's door reflection. One other little bit of trivia regarding the Knight Rider cars. So notice this door trim right here. This is your factory General Motors door trim. This was an RPO and an add-on for Trans Ams that you could get through the factory. It was a rubber molding. After the first season, you don't really see this trim anymore. They replaced it with an aluminum C-channel with a rubber insert that was actually riveted onto the doors. The reason they did that is because they kept, banging these cars up, repainting them, and simply put, the rubber molding just couldn't withstand, all the coats of paint, all the bashing and everything. So they ended up replacing it with this rivet-on aluminum channel trim that was a bit more, could withstand the abuse a little bit more. All of the original cars that have survived, all 5 of them, still have their aluminum channel, on the side, and they all have about a dozen coats of paint on them, so they look nice and thick. And if you look up here at the door, the key, where the key goes, you'll notice that it's completely black. Normally the center would be silver, and once again, all they would do anytime the car needed repainted, they wouldn't bother masking anything off. They just spray over this and spray over it and spray over it. So again, our cars, our original cars, have a nice thick coat of paint around here, and it's quite a sight to see. So this is where Kit backs up and pushes Rusker's truck out of the way, and you can see the rear end of the truck here. But did you ever notice there's actually a dolly underneath the rear of the truck? And what they did was, they didn't have Kit obviously pushing this. That would ruin the Trans Am. They had the tractor on a dolly, and when Kit got close, they had another force off camera pulling the dolly to in turn pull the rear end. So if we look over here, there we see Michael backing up. This is, by the way, the backup to the hero car, as we can see by the squared off overhead. We've got, some additional layers of gaffer's tape up here. We still have all this gaff tape that's peeling up on the dashboard here. Just, a little bit of a mess. But as we move over here, we can see there's the dolly right there, and we can see that this whole rear end's being swung out of the way, and Kit sustained minor, if any, damage during that whole scene. And then Michael takes off, still the backup to the hero car. We'll get a decent look at the sticker dash on the inside and the round steering wheel there. So here we see Michael, this is right after he pushed Kurt's truck out of the way, and he peels out and heads off down this road, supposedly on his way to Riggins Distributor. However, let's just take a look at all of this. Let's go back here. So Michael, just to give you a point of view, so Michael was parked right here. Rusker's truck was right here. So he pushed the truck out of the way, and then Kit drove down this road and spun out of the way past this building. However, he was actually going to Riggins Distributor, which is the complete opposite direction. It's just down this road, or it was down this road, I should say. Riggins Distributor was right there, and there you can clearly see the pad. That's where Riggins Distributor was. Unfortunately, it is all gone now. But look, you can see, let's compare the mountaintops, just because. So if we look here, we've got, that ridge, and then it dips, and then another ridge, And there we go. See, it comes up, dips, dips, and there's the other ridge. So this is exactly where it was. Gone now. So Michael's talking to Gil Riggins. This is Guy Stockwell. Guy reappears in Return to Cadiz as Zachary Sloat. He is also the brother of Dean Stockwell, who played Al in Quantum Leap, as well as many other productions. And this is another blink and you'll miss a cameo, and it's really hard to see. But if we look down here, what is that? A Comtron box right there in the font, Comtron box from the pilot. Moving on, Michael takes Terry home in Kit, and it's interesting. They're talking about some of their favorite movies, The Alamo, The Virginian, and during that whole scene, then Kit pulls to a stop. And what's interesting is during this scene, you can hear Michael and Terry are talking, but what they're saying doesn't match up with their lips on the inside. And in reality, I'm pretty sure that Hasselhoff and Yvonne McCord, who played Terry, were just making small talk and laughing and having fun, because watch this conversation in here, watch their lips and their body language. It looks like they're just kind of having fun until they go to get out of Kit. Kit then heads with Michael, obviously, to the Wagon Wheel Motel, and Michael has Kit turn on his surveillance mode. This is one of the first times we see Kit's scanner turn on without the all-on effect. So for those of you not familiar, the all-on effect was a startup sequence, if you would, of the original scanner that was built for these cars, where all 8 of the bulbs would flash on for 1 second, and then it would start scanning. But here we see the power is applied and the scanner just starts scanning back and forth. So what that tells me is this is not the original scanner circuitry that was built for the pilot, the original pilot. This is, a circuitry that was designed later in-house by Universal Studios, where when power is applied, the scanner simply turns on, oscillates back and forth, and the only thing you can do is adjust the speed. We know this because we own 4 or 5 of the original scanner controllers that Universal built for these cars. So we've obviously studied the electronics. We're in the process of restoring all 4 of those. And we know that that's all they do. Power is applied and they start oscillating back and forth, and that is it. Good look at the backup to the hero car. We've got the blind drive seat in here, which they are, the poor man's blind drive seat that still doesn't really look like a proper PMD seat. We're going to see this for a few more episodes, this style of seat, and then starting in season 2, they redo this seat to make it look more like a PMD seat and not just like some custom built thing. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, this is not the backup to the hero car. This is actually the stunt car, I believe. Yeah, it is, because see, there's no camera tow bar receiver, and we've got a seatbelt right back here. This is one of the stunt cars. And see, then we move in, and we've got, even though there's a blind drive seat in here, there's actually a guy bent down underneath the dash backing the car up. So I'm not sure the purpose behind that if someone's in the blind drive seat, but you can see right here there's a head of a stuntman, and as the scene progresses, you see that head kind of dip down underneath the dash. See? And then the seat, the head is gone. So something we failed to mention in our Topaz Connection episode, and if you'll recall, we talked about the orange SUV that was used in the Topaz Connection and how it was repainted and trim was changed and whatnot, and it was reused again in Nobody Does It Better in Big Iron. Well, we failed to mention that it's also used here, and we know that because we can see the door jamb here. We see that it's orange, and in a couple episodes in Nobody Does It Better, we see this truck again, and it's still this tan color, but the police bar is gone and the stickers on the side are gone, and it's just a regular SUV. But here's yet another appearance of that original orange SUV that we saw in Topaz Connection. And then we move to this interesting scene. This is the first time we see it, but it becomes stock footage of Kit rounding a bend and driving up into the semi. This was always interesting to me because they show Kit, and then you get a quick glimpse of the semi, and The semi always looked pixelated for some reason in this shot, and I'm not exactly sure why, because these should be solid cross beams. Maybe it's just the way the camera was panning, but I always wondered why this was pixelated. It almost made it look computer generated, which obviously is not the case. But it's this scene, which some of you are familiar with, where Kit rounds the bend. We see Kit, his scanner is on a little bit on the fritz here. What's happening is these are 8 different relays, and a relay is getting stuck on and holding the light on, which is why you see that. Notice also we see this white bit of adhesive that we mentioned in our previous episode in Whitebird. We saw this car in Whitebird, and we can see that they still have this adhesive that they haven't fixed. This is Robert Balver, who was the stuntman early in the series before Jack Gill took over, but this is him driving into Kit. Michael, Devin, Bonnie in the semi, which is actually stage 1 at Universal Studios, which we've covered. And you kind of get a look here. They have the back door gone, so you could get a look. Not that you can make out anything, but this is actually the inside of stage 1 at Universal Studios, where it was built. And by the way, we don't have any pictures per se of this set from the outside, from stage 1. However, you do get glimpses of it in Fright Night in the 4th season. So if you can bear with us until we get to our commentary on Fright Night, which might be a little while, we'll be able to show you the outside of this set along with the outside of Devin's office set. So stay tuned for that. Michael arrives at the Wagon Wheel Motel, and if you guys want to see what that motel is like, now it is still in existence, and it's still a motel. It is the Sierra Pelona Motel in Santa Clarita, California. It is still a motel, and it still exists today. And you can see this rock wall looks very familiar. And the camera, Michael pulls in down at this entrance here, but the camera on the dolly comes in here, and I don't think we can go in here, unfortunately. Here we have Terry Callie going out on her own, and this is yet another one of Universal Studios GMC Astros. So they used 2 different ones in this episode. Michael is now in the hero car. We can tell we've got the Chaffee style overhead. For those of you who like this overhead, enjoy it while it lasts. We've only got a few more episodes before this is gone forever. And of course, we still have our gaffer's tape over our white wire. This is that 6th Trans Am, the one that first premiered in Chariot of Gold. One thing you'll notice is that this car, if we look closely, has 1983 style seats. It does not have the PMD seats. You can tell by the squared off headrest. There's no opening in the headrest. This, and you might be asking yourself, well, in Chariot of Gold and in Whitebird, we saw this car and it had PMD seats. So why does it all of a sudden have 83 style seats? And while we're not 100% sure, we're fairly certain that this was a piece of stock footage that was probably filmed a few episodes ago before they filmed those scenes for Chariot of Gold and Whitebird. And it was simply before they switched out those seats from 83 style seats to the PMD seats. That's our guess. But remember, they were swapping parts back and forth through these cars quite a bit. So we'll actually see this car again in the 2nd season, and it's got 83 style seats back in it. So, as their needs dictated, as one car maybe that was going to be used for close-ups needed PMD seats that were worn or torn, or who knows, they might have swapped PMDs out of this car, which was a background stunt car, and decided to put the 83 style back ends. It's so hard to say, but we do know for sure that they were switched back and forth. But here's a nice look. This is the first time we see the 1983 style seats in this car. There's a better look at them. So there's your squared off 83 style seats with the seatbelt guide still attached. This is the scene where Terry loses her trailer. She's knocked out and they shoot up the back and it kind of comes unhitched. This is a nice clean white trailer. And then whenever it goes over the side, it's a much shorter, older style trailer with this pattern on the side. So obviously they're not going to destroy a nice trailer. They're using some stock footage here from another production. Michael then goes to the rescue, tells Kit to open the auto roof. Kit opens the auto roof right button, and then we see Michael getting out of the left. Little editing mistake there. Great shot of the front of Kit here. He's not being towed. This is actually being blind driven, and we'll see as soon as Michael leaves, Kit drives off frame there. Not much to point out here, except for the fact that this is probably one of the more violent deaths in Knight Rider, where Sam Volker gets into his Lincoln and then it just explodes. So, the series, again, it was geared towards kids. It was on Friday nights. And, for the most part, they didn't do too much killing. But this might be one of the more disturbing ones where someone is actually blown up. Here is a great look at the front of Callie & Son Garage and Trucking. So now that we see this, so we see the squared off building, the vertical slats, the door, the little awning. Now let's go back and take a look. There we go. So there's let's zoom in a little. Let's see if we can, let's compare. So there it was in 1983. Here it is now. We can see that it still has the same awning, the same facade in the front, and all they did is they put this sign on top of the existing sign right here for Al's Towing. By the way, this building is used in a number of other episodes. This is used in Speed Demons. And actually, if we go back around the side of the building, this is the scene in Speed Demons. Kit pulls up and parks here. Michael gets out, and actually there's a little hand behind Kit that holds the door shut, but he goes back in the back here and meets with Kelly and Sabrina Travis in the back there. This is also the same building we see in Hills of Fire, where Daryl is on the payphone calling the Foundation. This is also the building that we see in The Wrong Crowd when the semi is stolen. This was the cafe that the girl was working at, and the semi was hidden in a building that used to be over here, which is now long gone. So this property has a ton of history with Knight Rider, and it's kind of cool to see that it's still pretty much as it was back then. Getting ready to take the semi out to hopefully catch the bad guys. Notice this wrinkle in the front bumper. This wrinkle has been on the semi since the pilot, and in reality this wrinkle has been on this GMC General for even 6 months prior to the filming of Knight Rider. This truck was one of again Universal's transportation fleets that they later turned into the Knight Rider truck whenever they needed a semi for the series. And this wrinkle in the bumper had been there long before the series started, and it was there all the way until they replaced this semi with a different one at the beginning of season 3. And of course, one of the most famous scenes is from this episode that we see in the intro going forward in season 2, where Devin's talking to Michael about the semi and how it's worth a king's ransom. So check this out. Michael and Terry climb up and get in the semi. This is the first time we really see the inside of the flag semi. So we can see here that it's got a tan interior. We can see we've got these high-backed seats that go up to, Michael's ear and go up to Terry's, the back of her head. We can see the jam in here is black, right? Because this is a black truck. Now take a look at this. We know, and we can tell that this is actually the real semi. We can see the trailer behind it and everything. Now take a look at this. Now we move forward, and all of a sudden, we are in a different truck. Notice how the seats are now super low, where in the previous one they were up to the back of Terry's head. Now look, they're down below her shoulders, same with Hasselhoff. And we can see that we now have a white trim here, and there's no trailer behind them. So this is what we would call an insert truck that they use for filming the interiors. It was a lot easier for them to, film something like this without pulling a trailer. And then we move over to the bad guys getting ready to attempt to hijack the semi. And if you look real closely through the reflection of the rear glass, you can see the camera truck setup here a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell. So here's the wiper blade, here's the reflection of the wiper blade, and then it looks like we've got a truck here. And this truck would have been connected to that other truck with a tow bar, just like we see with the Knight Rider cars. And we can see some brackets here, and there would have been lights and a whole crew of operators on this truck. So kind of neat to see behind the scenes there. And now once Michael realizes they're on their way, we see back inside the insert truck here, and we get an even better look. We see more of the white right here where this should be black. And you get a great look in the reflection at the cameras that were mounted on the side of this truck. So you can see the camera here and the film reels, 2 giant film reels at the top. Great shot here. This would become some stock footage they would reuse again, most notably in Brothers Keeper. But this is the first time Kit backs out of the semi driverless. So the first time they blind drove Kit out of the back. I purposely took this screenshot because I think the sparks look cool. The sparks are not from the Trans Am. They're actually from the edges of the ramp, with the pressure of the Trans Am hitting the edges of the ramp, pushing them down into the ground, causing sparks. We see after Michael has boarded Kit coming around back, and we've got fake Terry Callie here, Lady Stunt Driver, and this is obviously back to the real semi, not the insert truck that they were using. Great shot here of the 6th, the hardtop stunt kit, the one that they just got a few episodes ago. We can see the seatbelts, the squared off overhead console, and when he spins around, we can see that it's a hardtop. There's no T-tops there, no tow bar, nothing like that. And then we move forward on the way to Gil Riggins, and now we are looking at the roll cage acrylic window jump car. And if you take a look at this, you can see how the car looks different than a Trans Am, especially if you're familiar with Trans Ams. It's you know, a little flatter, the rear end is curved, all the lines look a little bit different, and that's very indicative of, you know, this car being through multiple jumps, and then they keep patching it together, and over time those body lines change as they just continue to add body filler, and, you know, they have it weighed down with bags of cement in the trunk, and just to get ready for the jump. So just overall, it just looks different. And then we've got fake Guy Stockwell here, Gil Riggins, leaving in the van, and then once again, here's this roll cage jump car, and if we move forward one scene, we can see we've got the crash camera box mounted on the side here for point of view shot. Going back a scene, looks like they put the 83 seats now in this car. So see how those are squared off? Because remember, the scene I showed you earlier with the hardtop car that had the 83 seats, that was most likely stock footage from a couple episodes ago. So here we have, chances are those seats were removed and placed in the roll cage jump car, because think about it, that makes sense. That would be one of the cars that you would least expect to see close-ups of. So what are they going to do with non-accurate seats? They're going to put them in a jump car, and they're going to take PMD seats that were in this car and move them out. And a great shot here, mid-action, mid-jump shot there. Definitely the 83 seats there. Very cool shot. And then Michael pulls up, it gets out, and Kit's glove box door has popped open from all the excitement. So you'll have that. And finally, towards the end of this episode, the cafe that we saw earlier in this episode, which I didn't have a screenshot of, and then this whole ending scene, this whole trucker's yard was actually filmed at the Agua Dulce airport in Santa Clarita, California. So this is all still there today. If we go over here to the aerial view, there is no street view, unfortunately, but this is the cafe right here. And the semi was parked along here. Whenever they were doing the test, and Devin said, "Be careful with the semi; it's worth a king's ransom." The semi was parked right here. And in this final scene, this was Kit, and he was driving off this way down the airport runway. Right there. So if we look here, see, he's driving right here on this road. And then if we zoom out, I guess this is the runway. This is probably a roadway. This is the runway. So if we go back over here, we can see he's on the roadway, and over here is the runway. Michael and Terry are leaving. We can see another rare rainy day for filming of Knight Rider. We can see the drops on the window, the rear hatch, and the T-tops. And what's interesting to note here is the music that's played over this final scene. Don Peake recorded a piece of music that we mostly hear during this scene. But right about the time that the screenshot is made, we hear the music change from what Don recorded to a piece, a kind of a generic musical closing piece. It's hard to describe. But Don actually recorded something different music at that point. And then whenever they were editing it, they overlapped his music with this other music. So I know that's very hard to explain. So let's take a listen now at the actual music that Don recorded for this final scene. And then you can go back in the episode and listen to the music that actually made it, and you'll hear that there's actually a big difference. And finally, the end credits, just another little trivia note. This is the only episode in the entire series that has this screenshot, this background screenshot of Kit during the credits. Normally, Kit is parked much closer. He's at the front of the frame. For this one episode, they used one where he is way back in the desert. The only episode it ever occurs in. Well, guys, that wraps up Night Moves. Can you believe we only have 2 episodes left, and we will close out the first season of our Nodder's Director's Cut commentaries. I think you guys are enjoying them. I hope you're enjoying them. I'm enjoying revealing some of these little tidbits to you, some of which you know, some of which I'm sure you don't know. So we've got 2 more episodes. Next up is Nobody Does It Better, followed by Short Notice. And I hope you guys tune in to both of those because we have some great information to share with you.
And now, while we listen to Joe's selection of Knight Rider music that we received directly from Don Peake himself, we'd like to thank these Patreon supporters. Look at you guys scrolling up the screen to my right. Wait a minute, how can you tell which side is my right since you can't see me because I'm not on camera? Oh well. You know what I mean. We're featuring these fine supporters at our Knight Rider Prop Restorer level. Thank you very much for your support. And for those of you at the Knight Rider History Hunter level, we're recognizing you right now in the description. Now, if you enjoyed seeing this golden nugget of Knight Rider history being rescued from obscurity, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. Your support would empower us to bring you even more of these historical nuggets. We are the Knight Rider Historians. Till next time, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.